All right, we'll go ahead and get started. It's great to see everybody, and you know, it's going to be a great week for Cowboy football. You know, we've had several grueling weeks of practice. I thought it was one of our more complete games since I've been our head coach, from an offense, defense, and kicking game. All three phases contributed to that win. And we're certainly excited about entering now complete conference play, and we'll utilize this week working on some fundamentals and then also spending time on Utah State. And so some of the guys that we anticipate back for the Utah State game, Kevin Prosser will be back, Drew Van Manen will be back, and Ryan Cummings is still going through concussion protocol, but we're in hopes through this week he has a chance. Certainly our sports medicine staff will keep us abreast of that, but we are going to need to take a couple days to make sure that we get refreshed and refocused and refine some of our things that we've got to improve on. I think there's certain areas of our game that showed improvement last week. We certainly threw the ball, caught the ball better. Our running game still needs to be a point of emphasis, and that will be worked on heavily this week. I think defensively, we're really encouraged about the number of takeaways that we've gotten. And Utah State will certainly stress us as far as how we deploy our guys, but we'll need to make sure we get our feet underneath us. It'll be great to have some of these guys back as well. So at this time, I'll open up any questions anybody may have.
Craig, how would the week kind of go? I'm sure, like you said, you work on Utah State. Will you practice all week, or give the guys a couple of days off? You guys go recruiting. How will this week go from that standpoint?
For us, Robert, we're going to do a pretty thorough review today of our game tape. The guys have lifted weights, but we will not practice today. And we'll practice on Tuesday. We'll practice on Wednesday. We'll practice on Thursday. We'll utilize Friday for recruiting, and then we're going to practice Saturday afternoon late. And so a mix of recruiting, a mix of fundamentals, and a mix of working on Utah State.
Coach, just through 5 games, it seems like the defense has taken a big step forward since last year. Is this kind of what you were expecting from the group this season?
You know, it is. We had a lot of really talented players coming back. We were young last year. I think our guys certainly are playing with a great deal of energy. It's not by chance the number of takeaways and explosive plays that occurred. It's been my experience through the years that when you have more aggressive, quality, explosive defensive players, takeaways occur. And so, it's a little bit unique to score twice on defense. We certainly did that, but we're pleased with our progress. However, our yardage needs to get held down a little bit. People are still gaining too many yards, and we're going to work hard on that. Points are always important. I thought, obviously we did a nice job with that Saturday.
Kind of assessed your defense through 5 games. How would you kind of assess the offense through the first 5 with, the inconsistencies at times with the run game? Just how would you assess, I guess, the offense through 5 games?
Inconsistent would be very accurate. A mixed bag would be accurate, and I'd say maybe even a critical subpar. We've got to improve if we're going to achieve the goals that we want to achieve. We've got to be more balanced on offense than what we are right now. We certainly have to be more explosive and productive, and that is going to come with the balance between the running game and the passing game.
Is there one area, Craig, where you'd like to see that get better? I mean, I know it's a complete group effort, but is there one area in that offense that you'd really like to see improve?
Well, no, the two areas. First of all, we need to be able to rush the ball more from a typical tailback-driven offense, and so we've got to generate more rushing yards from that spot. And then I think our competency as far as our completion rate and catching the ball, however, that did improve Saturday, and so that's going to need to continue on a trajectory to where we can take advantage to be able to throw the ball and be explosive through the passing game. But the number one thing, we have got to be able to run the ball better. And we're going to make a real point of emphasis. It'll be great to get Ryan back, hopefully, sometime next week.
You mentioned the explosive plays. Obviously, Josh is a guy who's comfortable with that. As the season's gone along, have the rest of the offense and the receiving corps, do you feel like they've gotten a little bit more comfortable with those downfield balls?
I thought this last week, last Saturday, was the best game we've had as far as making big plays through the air. our guys caught the ball well. They worked to get themselves open, and Josh found them, and so that was encouraging.
I know with, mention some of the guys you'll get back in with, like Sid or KJ or even Austin Fort and Shiloh. Or I know you don't have a game this week, but what's the prognosis with those guys right now?
The guy that probably looks like the best opportunity of those names that you mentioned might be Austin Fort. I think it's going to be a long time for Sid. It'll be a long time for Adam Pillipole. And the other guy you mentioned, Caden Jackson. That's still a couple weeks away also. We're a banged up football team, and we went into this game not limping, but a pretty staggering walk. And so it was great to see us come up with a dominating performance, and it was great to get some younger players in the game. I thought those game repetition were really, really helpful.
Coach, obviously special teams coming up big with those kick returns, and Tyler's a pretty explosive guy. But with the rest of that unit, just the blocking, I guess how have you been with the way that they've performed this season?
Well, two components will help with the kickoff return. One, you mentioned being able to field a kick is critical. The guy fielding it, and then the blocking. And we've done a good job blocking, but Tyler is an exceptional returner. We knew that going in, that he would be a guy that could turn the field over. We didn't anticipate two touchdowns off of kickoff returns back-to-back games. It's quite unusual and pretty remarkable for him and that unit.
You mentioned, Coach, getting the backup guys some repetitions in this last game, how good that was. Any thought to giving them maybe a few more reps in practice this week, just to, because you are banged up and you might need some of these guys down the line?
There'll be a flow during the course of practice. We do give a lot of our guys repetition anyhow, even though they don't see meaningful game plays. Repetition. What will occur is I think you'll see some of those balances change during the course of the week in the rotation. Numbers will change. Some of it's going to be dictated by our depth. Some of it's going to be dictated by how seasoned. A couple of guys that are really experienced players, if they've been having nagging injuries, you'll see some of their repetition cut. However, we're in it to win this thing, and the best way we know how to win is to prepare. And so we'll be artful on the amount of contact we have, the amount of work that we give, but we'll need to practice pretty well.
An early thing on Utah State, I know recently they've been forcing a lot of turnovers. I think they're leading the country right now. But what have you seen? I know against BYU, I think BYU was on its fourth or fifth quarterback. But what have you seen so far early on film where they've been able to force so many turnovers?
Well, similar to us, I think they've got some explosive guys that are aggressive and they ball hawk. Coaches do a nice job creating those situations where the takeaways do occur. And so, it's going to be I think we've got a lot better. So you're seeing two really explosive defenses, and there's no doubt when you get that type of turnover margin leading the country, in that allows you to win a lot of games.
This is pretty good timing for the bye, just considering you've got all 5 divisional opponents back-to-back when you return.
It's probably been the best timing for a bye since I've been our head coach, simply because I think we've had a stretch of some really, really challenging games, and we are nicked up. Our injury report is significantly longer than it was last year, and sometimes that comes with the cost of who you're playing, and sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. But nonetheless, we're banged up, and it's going to be an important week to get some guys all solidified before we go over to Logan.
Is it big, Coach, also to kind of get out, as you mentioned Friday, to do some recruiting, just kind of get out in the middle of the season with the timeline moved up now?
Well, we've been working really hard on in-season recruiting, and we do take advantage of bye weeks. But there's been a lot of times on Friday nights that we've been out, both in-state and out-of-state, and that certainly helps because everybody's going to grapple with, how do you meander through the change of the early signing date, and we plan to be on point with that.